I'm CK. Tonight we've got another oscillator, the Radioactive oscillator from Tesseract Modular. They're based out of Seville, Spain. I haven't done a module from them before, so that'll be fun. It's small in size, but if you look at their description on their webpage, and hopefully what we'll hear later when we put it in the test rack, it's a very capable and full-featured oscillator with lots of modes and interesting things to do. So I'm looking forward to putting this one together and hope you enjoy the video. Here's the package. I got this from fonk.co.uk, where I get most of my eurorack modules. Got a power cable first with mounting screws. Let's look at this. This is the fun part. This is the circuit board and front panel. And I will destroy the packaging in my own unique way, because I am terrible at opening packaging. I don't know why, I just am. There's the front panel, we'll look at that in a second. Yes, I wish I could. Here's the circuit board. It looks like there's... Oh, that's too bad. For me. For you, it might not be as bad. As you can see, there's a ton of surface mount components already installed on the board. I'm not going to get to do any surface mount tonight. So it looks like... Well, it looks like, quite frankly, I'm not going to be able to do any soldering besides the controls and the jacks. Huh. So there's 3 pots. There's our jacks. LEDs and a push button. And one other pot, probably a different value than the other ones. So this is not a huge do-it-yourself kit. This is, we did most of it, we did almost all of it for you. Go ahead, slap the controls on it. So we'll see how it comes out. I, as you know, like to put more of it together than this, but that's okay. And right here, 16 megahertz chip, timing crystal. The chips on board, that's the Mega 32 from Atmel microcontroller. TL704 op amp. This is a Motorola something or other. MCP 6004. I'm not sure what that is. And then a whole bunch of resistors and capacitors. So it looks like this is going to go together very, very quickly. And I don't think... Let me look at the back to see. So they've got the values on all the pots. There's 10K, 100K, 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 3 jacks for pitch, attack, glide, release, shaper, and wave. And then the switch, which I think changes the waveform. A couple of LEDs, a couple more jacks. Let's look at the front panel itself now. Radioactive, and again, if we look at it I want to make sure we're lined up right. Yeah. So we've got pitch, pot, and a jack too. I'm not quite sure what that would be for. Octave pot, and that's the attack, glide, jack, release, jack, sustain, pot, mode, pot, shaper, wave, setup and shift, that's the push button, and then a trigger gate and an out. So I guess this is also a VCA as well as an oscillator. We'll see. Again, I'm kind of padding a little bit because this is going to be done really quickly. And I want you all to get your money's worth. So the soldering iron is heated up, and we'll go ahead and put the controls on. Fortunately, this development group is one of those thoughtful ones who takes the panel nuts off the jacks for us, so we don't have to spend that extra time doing that. Oh, I always do this backwards. You should put the pots on before you put the jacks on, because when you put the pots on, now where did that, there it is. When you put the pots on, you're kind of forcing them through, and they jump a little bit, and that usually unseats your jacks. But if you do the pots first, that doesn't happen. So do the pots before you do the jacks. So these are all the 10-4s, B10-4s, which is the 100Ks. Come on. I think I'm going to squeeze these a little bit to make them a little less grippy, so they go through the circuit board holes a little easier. Not too much. You still want them to have tension, of course. Just a little less. Okay, they're all on. Fortunately, one thing this board does not have is it doesn't, and I'm a little surprised at this, it doesn't have any of the little surface mount electrolytic caps. And the only reason why I mention it is you can snap those off when you're manhandling other things on. So you just need to be aware of that. Now we've got 3 greens and 1 red LED. I'm going to drop these on the board now, just to get them out of the way. And I got to look at the picture. And they use these spacers, which I like. I first saw them on Division 6 products. They're nice because you don't have to fuss with making sure you got the right distance to the panel. And they also keep the leads kind of dressed well. Let's drop the switch in. So I'll drop the panel on now. Oh, it's not that. I'm sorry. That's not another spacer. That's the cap for the switch. It goes on like so. Now I'm going to drop the panel on. Make sure everything's aligned, make sure the switch clicks well. Oh, the LEDs do not poke through. They illuminate cutouts or stencils on the front panel. That's a sine wave, that's a triangle wave, and that's a square wave. So they're just indicating which wave is active. I'm going to do 2 jack points. I'm going to solder this pin up here on this jack. And then all the way down here, making sure I'm all flush. I'm going to solder this pin. Now I'll flip her back over and take a couple of panel nuts. And tighten them on the 2 jacks I tacked down to keep everything in place while I solder everything up. And that's what I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to go into fast replay mode for this, because there's not much interesting in watching me solder a bunch of pots and jacks to the board. Now, one thing I will say, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. If you look, say here, on, and I've got color bars in the way. Right here, you'll see there's 1, 2, 3 leads or legs of the potentiometer. You also see there's a resistor, and a capacitor surface mount right around them. You're going to have to be really careful with your soldering iron placement to not heat those and have their solder melt and have them slip off. So be very, very conscious of where your soldering iron tip is while you're working on a board that's got mixed through hole and surface mount. So fast motion coming up. So there it is. It's the front, side, back, other side, top, and bottom. Again, a very, very quick build, like 10 minutes. I would barely call it a build. It's mainly just final assembly. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in the rack, and we'll give it a whirl and see how it sounds. Here we are in the rack, and I'm going to be triggering this from the Midi Midi Thing. Will be giving us CV for pitch as well as gate, because again, this is not just an oscillator, it's also got a VCA in it and other things, so you don't need an additional envelope generator or VCA for this unit, which is kind of nice. And I'll also use the Division 6 sequencer along the way also. Let me zoom in and set to manual focus so it doesn't shift focus when I move my hand around. And we'll plug it in and see if anything blows up. It's been known to happen. Nope, no blow up. So we've got the green sine wave indicator. Where did I put my pointy thing? So on the front panel, all the gold, like when it says shaper, that's the current use or release, that's the current use of these knobs. Pitch is that knob. Now this switch, the push button switch, does a couple of things. It gets you into setup mode. It switches waveforms, as you can see right there. You can all bring up each or any combination of the waveforms to the output. Now if you hold it down where it says shift, then the functions in white underneath are what's active when you turn the knob. Now you can get into setup mode by pressing and holding the button before powering up. When you turn the power on, all the LEDs will light and then flash to tell you that the module's in setup mode. And setup mode allows you to set the parameters labeled between the jacks and the pots. And I'm not going to do that now because that's not... There's a lot you can do, adding polyphony, pitch attenuation, glide voltage control, so you can use, say, a LFO with certain voltages set to change your glide if you want. I don't know why that came into mind, but that's what I was going to do. And then you can save all that. So again, everything you'd expect. These are what you would all expect. So there's a lot of things we can do with this. I'll probably do a couple of things, but not necessarily a whole bunch of them. So let's start playing with it. Here's how she sounds. I'm going to take the pitch up a little bit. That sounds really nice. In fact, I'm gonna tune for middle C here. Let me take release all the way up. Well, that's pretty damned accurate. Oops, it's not a fine control. So let's play around a little bit. I'm going to take release down way low. Take glide almost all the way off. See, it's very soft edged. Even with glide all the way off, I'll turn it up a little bit. There's a breathiness to this that I really kind of like. I'm going to move the shaper all the way counterclockwise. I'll move it clockwise slowly. change mode. I don't actually know what this does. Well, it made it go very, very quiet. Oh, that's interesting. So just a little turn of the mode switch and interesting things happen. Let me go back to over here. And in combination with Shaper, well, that's very much fun. I'm going to go to the next waveform, the saw wave. I'm going to take all the glide out. Let's go to the square wave. Sine and saw. I'm going to change the mode again. I'm going to do something interesting. I'm going to take the CV from the Division 6 sequencer and put it in to the Shaper. I'm going to turn the sequencer on. Didn't quite do what I expected. Let me put it somewhere else. Now, if you notice, I read this in the manual, putting some CV in the wave, as you can see, changes the wave sequentially. Let me speed up my sequencer to insane speed. Let me take that back out. I don't have an LFO out here, or I do some more with that. That seems very much fun. See what the octave does. I think it probably tunes the input. Let me give us a little more sustain. Sustain with no release. And again, I'm going to go ahead and trigger that from the sequencer and see how fast we can get some responsiveness out of this. I'm going to slow it back down again. Oops. Much easier to set the mode with a sequencer or something like it. So, as you can see, where am I? As you can see, this is a very nice little unit with lots of capabilities. I like this thing quite a bit. I'm going to be playing with this a lot. This I can, it's showing so much versatility that it certainly could be at home as the main oscillator in your rig. The only reason why I wouldn't say that is because the envelope is not quite as flexible as, say, an external ADSR, but what it's got is really hot. I like this. So this is the Radioactive from Tesseract Modular. A very fun unit, not much of a build, but a fun unit when you get it up and running. And I'm looking forward to using this more. Hope you enjoyed the video.